Like you, I learned that Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12 in 2024 as opposed to 2025 on Thursday night. So we obviously have to talk about what does this mean and how did this happen? Well, as it so happens, I wrote about this at foxsports.com on Tuesday, and we talked about it a little bit on the show on Wednesday, but we will dig into that further next week. But for now, landscape. The Big 12 is a 14-team league for this year and this year only. It was always thought that this was going to be the case just because the politics of Oklahoma and Texas remaining in the Big 12 after announcing that they plan to enter the SEC in July 2021 as soon as 2025 or earlier has become untenable, right? We're talking about Oklahoma and Texas being persona non grata in a conference that they helped found, which I think is fairly wild to think about because that is where my brain goes when we talk about Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12. Now, they're going to pay a $100 million exit fee for the opportunity to leave this thing a year earlier than their agreement would allow. There's also a lot of other things they need to satisfy in there, not the least of which is the 99-year agreement they signed in 2012, which is to say that there was going to be a penalty applied to anybody that wanted to leave the Big 12 at any point in any time, because at that time, conference realignment was a thing. You'd already lost Missouri, Texas A&M, Colorado, Nebraska, to various other leagues. And now the SEC is becoming a 16-team league at a time when the Big 12 will be fully back to being a 12-team league when Oklahoma and Texas leave after 2024. So what does that mean for the Big 12 in 2024 and beyond? Well, that is going to be really interesting to figure out together, because going into this season, the Big 12 features 11 teams that have made a New Year's Six bowl game in the college football playoff era. As a matter of fact, you can really go down the list, and it is kind of stark and outstanding to think about. You're talking about perhaps West Virginia, right? Kansas, and BYU as being those three teams that have not. Everybody else can claim that they've been a 10-win or better team, right? You also need to take into account that Texas Christian came out of nowhere last year to surprise everybody by making the college football playoff. And TCU was allowed a level of grace that, frankly, I don't think would have been given to Oklahoma in 2022. I say this because Oklahoma used to get that spot in the college football playoff, but they needed to win the Big 12 championship game to do it. This season, or I should say last season, TCU ran the regular season undefeated for the first time since 2010, lost a really close game to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship, and still was able to get into the playoff, and then seemed to acquit themselves well. Because remember, they beat Michigan. And just that quickly, the narrative turned from Texas Christian might be really good to how could Michigan have lost to that team? Because that team lost 65-7 to the defending national champion, Georgia Bulldogs. That is also what Oklahoma and Texas are jumping into. They're jumping into the fray where the SEC is dominant. And I was looking at recruiting budgets just Wednesday because it's what I do, right? And we'll probably talk about this on the show. But the top 5 budgets in recruiting 2022 include what is going to be 5 SEC teams come 2024. Texas, Texas A&M are in there. Alabama, Georgia is in there, and then Tennessee, right? Michigan spent the most of any other Big Ten school, and they didn't even approach more than $2 million. Meanwhile, Georgia's spending over $4 million, right? You got Tennessee spending nearly $3 billion. You've got $2 million plus for A&M in Texas. What I'm saying is the Big 12 is going to have to beef up and beef out. And Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, has said, we're going hunting. We're going to try to add more teams to this league. And George Kliavkoff was at SMU earlier this week, just looking to see if he could add to the Pac-12, to see what that's going to be with USC and UCLA set to join the Big 10 in 2024 as well. I wanted to get out here and talk about this because it is fascinating, because this is going to be the last year for which we get Oklahoma and Oklahoma State on the schedule for a very long time. It's one of my top Big 12 games to look for because that game does not look like it's going to be on the schedule in the foreseeable future. You also have the last opportunity for Big 12 schools really to go at OU and Texas's neck. And when you look at the schedule, it's going to be tough for both OU and Texas. I mean, Oklahoma has to go to Provo, Utah in late November, turn right around, play Texas Christian on a Friday night following Thanksgiving, right? Texas has to go play at Houston, a thing that they never wanted to do and had only done just 3 times since the, desolation of the Southwest Conference, right? We're talking about 2000, 2001, 2002, and always at Texas. Now they got to go play away against a Houston team that they have historically looked down their nose at. The Big 12 is kicking them in the rear on the way out. What I want to see is, how does Oklahoma or Texas respond in 2023? And then, are they going to be ready for what is going to happen with this SEC schedule in 2024 as the Big 12 defines who it will be without its two chartered and blue blood and moneyest and winningest programs in conference history?
Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.